啟示錄2章12至13節，你要寫信給別迦摩教會的使者，說：那有兩刃利劍的說，我知道你的居所，就是有撒但座位之處。當我忠心的見證人安提帕在你們中間，撒但所住的地方被殺之時，你還堅守我的名，沒有棄絕我的道。聖經啟示錄記載，當主耶穌向別迦摩教會嘅使者說話嘅時候，提到別迦摩係一處有撒但座位嘅地方。事源喺歷史上面，別迦摩係使徒時代羅馬帝國嘅偶像敬拜中心，甚至有一座宙斯祭壇。呢個就係啟示錄稱為撒但座位嘅地方。並且曾經有一位忠心嘅基督徒，名叫安提帕，因為唔肯承認羅馬嘅邪神，而喺呢個撒但座位嘅宙斯祭壇上邊，以獻祭嘅方式被關喺一隻銅牛裏面，活活燒死。就喺19世紀，呢一座位於別迦摩嘅宙斯祭壇被德國考古學家發掘咗出嚟。後來到咗2次大戰前，呢一座祭壇喺德國柏林嘅別迦摩博物館重建咗。之後呢一座撒但座位嘅祭壇喺希特拉嘅指令下，成為當時納粹喺紐倫堡舉行嘅100萬人大檢閱嘅正面看台設計。
I, John, was on the island that is called Patmos. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice. To the angel of the church in Pergamum write, I know your works, and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. And you hold fast to my name, and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells.
Today, all that's left of Pergamon are ruins. But when the Apostle John wrote his letter to the church there, it was one of the most influential cities in the Roman Empire.
Pergamum had a unique status that was different than any other city because it was the political center. And it was from there that all of the rulings were made which affected the whole of Asia Minor.
The city's Acropolis rivaled Athens, and its library was the second largest in the ancient world, with a collection so great that the Roman general Mark Antony presented it as a wedding gift to Cleopatra. At the end of the first century, Pergamon was a thriving city. So why does the book of Revelation call it the dwelling place of Satan? The answer lies in the ruins of the city's temples.
On one side, it was a very beautiful city. But on the flip side, it was one of the darkest, eeriest cities in the whole Roman Empire.
The people of Pergamon were known as the Temple Keepers of Asia. The city had 3 temples dedicated to the worship of the Roman emperor, another for the goddess Athena, and the great altar of Zeus, the king of the Greek gods. Many scholars believe this altar is the throne of Satan mentioned in the book of Revelation.
That word throne was first used to describe a chair that was used in a personal private residence. And it was the chair for the Lord of the house, the master of the house. The very fact that Jesus would use that word in this verse means Satan felt at home there. He sat on a throne there. It was his territory. He was the master of that house.
The city also had a healing center called the Asclepion. It was built in honor of the Greek serpent god Asclepios. In the first century, this was a cross between a hospital and a health spa, where patients could get everything from mud baths to major surgery. Even the emperors came all the way from Rome to be treated here. But this was no ordinary doctor's visit.
If you were a terminal patient, then you were not allowed to go into the Asclepion. And these Asclepian priests didn't want anyone hearing somebody had died in the Asclepion. And in fact, there was a huge sign just above the official entrance to the Asclepion which said, death is not permitted here. So the only way you were going to get in to begin with is if they knew you were going to live.
Patients entered through this underground tunnel. Then they drank a sedative and slept here in the dormitories, while non-poisonous snakes crawled around them all night. They were told that the serpent god Asclepios would speak to them in their dreams and give them a diagnosis.
It was believed that the snakes actually carried the healing power of Asclepius. And if a snake slithered across you while you were sleeping at night, that was a divine sign that healing power was coming to you.
The next morning, the patients told their dreams to the priests, who prescribed their treatments. Finally, the patients made clay sculptures of the body parts that needed healing and offered them to Asclepius.
The people of Pergamon worshipped a myriad of Greek and Roman gods, but when Christianity arrived with the belief in just one God, the city's pagan priests went on the attack, and their most famous victim was a man named Antipas.
In the book of Revelation, Jesus called Antipas my faithful martyr. He was the bishop of Pergamum, ordained by the Apostle John, and his faith got the attention of the priests of Asclepius, who complained to the Roman governor in Pergamum. The priests testified that demons appeared to them in their dreams and told them that the prayers of Antipas were driving them out of the city.
He had cast out so many devils that the demons, the spirits, had been complaining to pagans, "You've got to do something about this Antipas."
Antipas was ordered to offer a sacrifice of wine and incense to a statue of the Roman emperor and declare that the emperor was Lord and God. He refused.
If you reject the divinity of the emperor, it's the equivalent of rejecting the city of Rome. And believers were killed for this.
Antipas was sentenced to death on the altar of Zeus.
Most of that altar survives today, and surrounding it are some of the world's most famous marble friezes. They portray the battle between the Greek gods and the giants.
At the top of the altar was a hollow bronze bull, designed for human sacrifice.
They would take the victim, place him inside the bull. They would tie him in such a way that his head would go into the head of the bull. Then light a huge fire under the bull. And as the fire heated the bronze, the person inside the bull would slowly begin to roast to death. And as the victim would begin to moan and would begin to cry out in pain, his cries would go through all of the pipes which were in the head of the bull, so it seemed to make the bull come alive.
Even in the midst of the flames, Antipas died praying for his church.
A few years later, the Apostle John wrote the book of Revelation, mentioning the death of Antipas on this very spot. Here in Pergamon, all that's left is the foundation. Today, the altar of Zeus is more than 1,000 miles away.
In the 19th century, German engineers dismantled the altar and took it to Berlin. The so-called Throne of Satan went on display in the city's Pergamon Museum in 1930, just in time to inspire one of the most brutal dictators the world has ever seen. Ancient Pergamon, the center of pagan worship in Asia Minor, once known as the place where Satan dwells. In the first century, it was a thriving city. But after countless wars and natural disasters, the temples of Pergamon lay in ruins.
By the mid-19th century, the once great city of Pergamon was barely a memory. The locals were using the site as a quarry, looting the marble for new buildings, until 1864, when a German engineer paid a visit.
Karl Humann was shocked by the destruction of the priceless artifacts, so he got permission to excavate the ancient city himself. And what he found was one of the greatest monuments in history, the altar of Zeus.
Stone by stone, the altar was excavated and brought here to Berlin, and then it was reassembled and placed in its own museum.
The Pergamon Museum was finished in 1930, with the altar as its centerpiece. Eventually, it caught the eye of a young man named Albert Speer, the new chief architect for the Nazi Party. Adolf Hitler had commissioned him to design the parade grounds for the party rallies in Nuremberg. And for inspiration, Speer turned to the Pergamon altar.
Speer gives all the credit to Hitler. I think that he's like a good interior decorator that someone hires, and that client already has the ideas of what he wants to do, and the decorator agrees with him and just fulfills them. So that's what Speer did.
Using the altar as his model, Speer created a colossal grandstand at the rally grounds. It became known as the Zeppelin Tribune. The next year, more than 1 million Germans came to Nuremberg to hear his speech. On the evening of September 15, 1935, Hitler announced the Nuremberg Laws, laws that took away German citizenship from Jews.
The law for the protection of German blood and German honor is intended to begin the marginalization process of the Jewish people. Hitler had a lot of popular support for much of his time in office. One doesn't get popular support by saying to the public, we're going to put Jewish people in gas chambers and then incinerate them. You don't do that. What he did was gradually marginalize them.
It was also here that Hitler used the phrase final solution for the first time in public. Bitter complaints have come in from countless places citing the provocative behavior of Jews. This law is an attempt to find a legislative solution. If this attempt fails, it will be necessary to transfer the Jewish problem to the National Socialist Party for a final solution. The Nuremberg laws stripped the Jews of their rights as citizens.
They couldn't teach in public universities. They couldn't practice medicine in public hospitals. They couldn't fly the national flag. Then that was coupled with the Reich citizenship law, which said that Jewish people in Germany were subjects of the Reich, but not citizens.
Hitler's final solution is now known as the Holocaust, from the Greek word that means a holy burnt animal sacrifice. In AD 92, the faithful martyr Antipas died, a holy burnt sacrifice on the altar of Zeus in Pergamon, the place the book of Revelation calls the throne of Satan. Centuries later, in Nuremberg, in the center of a redesigned Pergamon altar, the bronze bull was replaced by a podium. From there, Adolf Hitler announced his final solution to the world, and this time, the burnt sacrifice was 6 million Jews.
喺2008年，當現任美國總統奧巴馬仲係競逐美國總統民主黨代表嘅一席位嘅時候，竟然用咗呢一座別迦摩宙斯祭壇，亦即啟示錄所講撒但座位，作為民主黨代表競選演講嘅正面看台嘅設計。究竟點解美國總統奧巴馬要用一個曾經用作殺死基督徒嘅撒但座位，亦係希特拉所重建嘅宙斯祭壇，作為總統競選演講嘅正面看台嘅設計呢？係咪因為美國嘅政要人物都相信希臘神話嘅邪神呢？甚至同納粹德國希特拉嘅信念都係相同，就係徹底咁成為一班敵基督爪牙呢？明顯咁，美國總統奧巴馬嘅信念、目的同埋政治手段，都係同當時嘅羅馬同埋2次大戰嘅希特拉一樣，並且將會提出所謂嘅最後手段 （final solution）。以往係要殺死安提帕同埋600萬猶太人，而呢一次將會係全世界所有嘅基督徒。